Listen to them again, and if those don't put her right in the middle, then I guess you know what you have to do. What possible motive would I have to prosecute an innocent person? In what universe would that assist me in getting the Adelsons?
Oh, I bet you're wondering, put who in the middle of what? We're going to get into it. Hello, all you legal-minded friends. You are here because you know information is power. That was a clip of the prosecutor from the 2019 trial of Catherine Meg Benoit and Sigfredo Garcia for the conspiracy to commit murder and first-degree murder of Dan Markel in USA. And in England and Wales, our prosecutors will also not prosecute if they have evidence that a person is innocent. The government must always act in the interests of justice, not solely for the purpose of obtaining a conviction. So this Florida prosecutor is reminding the jury of this. And we'll find out in a bit what benefits justice got from prosecuting Katie Meg Benoit, even though the results of this trial from 2019 may surprise you. We will discuss a few really good examples on how the case fearlessly advanced the case against Donna Adelson from 2016 to 2023, when she was arrested and put in handcuffs at the Miami airport. Donna Adelson is accused of being part of a conspiracy to commit murder against Dan Markel, her ex-son-in-law, in Florida, USA. You can check out my other videos in my true crime playlist on this case, as they also highlight some of the alleged evidence against Donna Adelson. She is currently 74 years old and has been in jail since her arrest, and her trial is scheduled for the 30th of September 2024. A lot has been said about Donna Adelson having a consciousness of guilt for attempting to flee from the USA to avoid being arrested. But is this true? I will also talk about that. But first, let's listen to the prosecutor from 2019 implicate Donna Adelson.
She lied to Yindra about Dan Markel being in a car accident. She lied about not knowing what a burner phone was and then later admitted to going to Walmart to get one. She lied to the IRS and filed fraudulent tax returns. She lied to DCF to scam the government for insurance while she saved up money to buy a breast augmentation. And she wants you to believe that she's telling the truth about having no knowledge about this homicide, not being able to remember virtually anything about the question she was being asked unless her lawyer put the answer in the question. She's telling the truth about having no memory as to what the conversation was between she and Charlie when he's telling her about a Latin king threatening his mother and saying her name. I would think she'd be real interested in that conversation. But she has no memory of it. You have been told this whole trial that she was working remotely on a weekend basis for the Adelson Institute. They bent over backwards to tell us about how she was working. And she gets on the stand and says, I didn't work there. I didn't go on the weekends. I worked for Charlie as his personal assistant. Well, why is Donna stroking the checks if she's working for Charlie? She admitted that she got gifts from Charlie post-breakup, and I said, you know, we went through all the gifts, and some of them, they say were loans, and whatever. She got stuff from him. And she was not dating him anymore. Why? And I asked her, why are you so special? Well, I know why she's so special. Because she's got Charlie. She's got him. And he has to keep her happy. That's why she gets that stuff. You guys can take that back there and read the whole thing and make your own mind up. All right. Let's erase. All right, so I want to talk just for a moment at the very end here about the shape of this conspiracy. It's like a train. They can be, you know, a cluster. They can be like spokes of a wheel. But in this case, there really kind of appears that each of these people are isolated from the other one. They're only Donna's only connection to the conspiracy is Charlie. Charlie's connection is, goes down the line like that. You can't get from the engine to the caboose without going through the middle. And the middle is Catherine Magbanua. Why did she pay for Garcia's lawyer? Not because the lawyer did anything wrong. I'm not throwing shade at him. She paid for another co-conspirator's attorney. That's relevant for your consideration and to whether or not this is a conspiracy.
So this was not the first time the Adelson family was implicated. The theory of the state's case from the beginning has implemented the Adelsons. In the probable cause affidavit from 2016, after the two hitmen that shot Dan Markel were arrested, the probable cause affidavit believes that the Adelsons were involved in that. One of the hitmen said that Catherine Magbanua paid for them to shoot Dan Markel so that his wife could have custody of the children. The affidavit also said that the murder of Dan Markel stemmed from the desperate desires of the Adelson family to relocate Wendy Adelson and the two children to South Florida. Note that the Adelsons did not flee in 2016, but after the murder, Wendy Adelson in 2014 did move to Miami to be closer to her family. So with her ex-husband no longer in the picture, she automatically gained full custody. Okay, let's listen to another clip from 2019 where the prosecutor is alleging how, if the Adelsons were a part of the conspiracy, why wouldn't Luis Rivera cough up this information? I mean, he's made a deal with the prosecution service, so he's not getting life in prison. However, Sigfredo Garcia, why wouldn't he just say something to get a deal as well? Why wouldn't he just say that the Adelsons were part of the conspiracy? So keep in mind that the prosecutor is still fearlessly advocating for a guilty verdict on Catherine Magbanua and, again, on her on-again, off-again boyfriend Sigfredo, who was, by the way, the shooter according to all the evidence. So pay close attention. And let me know in the chat if after hearing this, would you have expected Charlie and Donna Adelson to be arrested next? I'll tell you who got arrested next in just a second. After 11 hours of deliberations, the jury found Sigfredo Garcia guilty of murdering Dan Markel. However, the jury was hung on deciding a verdict for Katie Magbanua, and her trial was declared a mistrial. So, it's important to also note that Donna Adelson did not flee the country after this verdict in 2019, even though she was implicated quite a bit in this trial. And if you guessed Charlie was arrested next, you'd be right. I do apologize for some of the background noise. We are having a bit of a wind storm. So the state was very determined to achieve justice for Dan Markel, and they retried Catherine Magbanua in 2022. The state were still fearlessly advancing their case against the Adelsons, implicating specifically Donna Adelson. Yet Donna Adelson did not flee the country. The state illustrated that Katie's income spiked just after Dan Markel had been murdered, and we're going to have a look at that. And they also illustrated that Donna wrote paychecks to Katie. Most of this was said in the last trial, but in this trial I think they were more determined and they gave a lot more detail. So let's look at some of that, and here, let's play a clip first to get us a little bit of a background.
And the agency assist was to review all the records in this case to see if there was any links or association with the Adelson family.
Yes.
All right, I'm going to ask you about a number of different things that you reviewed, and I've left several items of evidence there in front of you that I'll ask you about. Well, first of all, did you review several bank accounts for the Adelson family, including the bank accounts of Harvey Adelson, Donna Adelson, Wendy Adelson, and Charlie Adelson?
I did.
Okay.
So that clip we just saw was in 2022 at the retrial for Catherine Meg Benoit, or Katie, as we've been referring to her. The state said they audited all the bank accounts of the Adelsons and the other conspirators. Again, Donna Adelson did not flee the country. The state continued to advance their case against Donna Adelson, and they detailed that 44 paychecks were issued to Catherine Meg Benoit. After taxes, Katie received a total of $17,729 from the Adelson Institute. Now, this is important because the checks were signed by Donna Adelson. Katie maintained that she worked for Charlie Adelson doing odd jobs. So in a second, we're going to talk about briefly the meaning of conspiracy. So for right now, the state evidence that the paychecks made to Katie matched up soon after Dan Markel was murdered. So the murder took place on the 18th of July, 2014. And on the 10th of August, 2014, checks were posted to Katie Meg Benoit. Now, on the checks, they have a note saying that this was for work on the 17th of September, 2014. So I think she was paid every 10 days, and that was for a pay period starting on the 17th of September. So that was about, 3 months after the murder? Is that close? I guess that will have to be argued in the courts. But yeah, so I think this is a good time to bring up the meaning of being part of a conspiracy. Then you can decide the importance of Donna Adelson issuing those paychecks. Again, Donna did not attempt to flee the USA. All this was, being broadcast on the internet, so I'm sure she had access to it. Okay, are you ready for the legal definition of conspiracy? It's kind of complicated in a way. It is an agreement where two or more people agree to carry out their criminal scheme into effect. So it is the agreement itself. Nothing needs to be done in pursuant of the agreement. So the liability is the agreement itself. Does that make sense? To prove conspiracy, the agreement cannot be mental. It must involve spoken and written words and other overt acts. And the motives are irrelevant. So what qualifies as an agreement? Well, oddly enough, you need a qualified agreement for the agreement to be a conspiracy. If, let's say, you don't agree, for example, you say, oh, I'm not sure about this, this isn't a good idea, so you are expressing or implying reservation, this will not dissolve your liability. It may reduce some of your liability depending on what you did with that information. Now, my guess is that Donna's going to say that she was just asked to make the payments and, she didn't ask any questions. However, if Donna knowingly set up the payments for the murder for hire, so if she said, look, you pay some cash and we can also put some through the business if, there's any evidence of that or, that was talked about and that can be proved, then she would be a part of the conspiracy in relation to the murder. Then she would be just as guilty as the person committing the murder. The state is still fearlessly advancing the case against Donna Adelson, yet she has not fled the country. We are getting there. My point of continuously saying that she's not fled the country yet is because all of this evidence that I've been telling you about is the state's theory. And it wasn't a secret. So now we are going to discuss the next event that took place. It's called the bump, because it is after the bump and wiretaps where I think the meat and potatoes of this case is. And it could be the I got you moment. Or will it? What is the bump, you might ask? Well, it is a setup basically to see what happens next. How do suspects behave? This operation was set up by law enforcement on the 19th of April, 2016. Now, I'm not going to get into too many details about the bump because I detail it in my video, Connecting the Dots to Murder. You can find that in my true crime playlist, where I play the bump for you. What we are interested in is what happens after the bump. That is important because immediately after being approached, Donna is spooked. Why? Well, it's not every day you're approached by a stranger asking you for money. And Donna calls Charlie. What she says is, in my view, incriminating, meaning she knows something isn't right. Okay, Donna Adelson calls the agent from the bump. And I'll tell you in just a minute when she calls him, because it's quite interesting. She waits quite a while. The premise of the bump is that the agent is pretending to be the brother of someone who helped their family out with an incident up north. And they want $5,000 because they know the Adelsons are helping Katie. Donna eventually, like I said, calls him on the 6th of May, 2016. So, she does take her time, but don't forget, they've been listening to all the phone calls back and forth. And when she's talking to the agent, she says stuff like, if they know anything about the death of her ex-son-in-law, wouldn't they be better off trying to get the reward? Because, that's a lot more money. She says she's not part of the loop. Now, I don't know about you, but if somebody said to me, I'm not part of the loop, well, that's it, kind of insinuating there is a loop. Food for thought there. So, can you guess what happened after the bump? Donna Adelson did not get arrested, nor did she leave the country. The payments for Catherine Benoit did stop, and the last one was posted on the 17th of May, 2016. At the retrial of Catherine Benoit in 2022, I've left on the screen, you can see how much her pay increased and how much her money, there's a lot of spikes there. So I know it's hard to read, so I'll just zoom in there for you. But yeah, she was found guilty and is now serving a life sentence. So with Catherine Benoit locked up for life, I think, that must have hit her hard. And in 2023, she does give evidence for the state. Now, remember, since 2016, she's been saying she has nothing to do with this. And I will play a couple of clips from 2023. She's in the purple prison outfit now. And I think it's important to play a bit of her testimony because she does a complete about-face turn. And so I'd like you to hear a little bit about that, because guess what happens after this?
Things started back in October of 13 and doesn't get done until July of 14. Can you describe whether there's any pressure as time is going on and this thing is not getting done?
Trying to remember, like, in the beginning of the year, I don't think there was really much. I mean, he's been planting the seed in my head that this needed to get done, this needed to get done. And I guess towards probably around June, July is when he was a little bit more adamant about this job getting done.
Okay, and when you say he, you're talking about who?
Charlie.
Did you ever have any contact with any other Adelson about this job?
No, ma'am.
In the context of this needs to get done, this pressure getting put on you, is there ever a mention of the mom, Donna, or the divorce situation in the context of getting it done?
At that time, not that I can recall.
Was anybody else there at his residence when you arrived?
At that day, no, ma'am.
Okay. Did you ever see his parents at the residence?
No, I didn't see his parents.
How was the money packaged when you got it? I think you said you got it the next morning.
Yes, ma'am.
How did Sigfredo Garcia and Luis Rivera get paid for their part in this murder?
That morning, when I woke up, I was like, oh my God, I gotta go. So I drove back down, and I was trying to look for Sigfredo and having a hard time that morning. And then eventually I made it to the alleyway of where Luis's building was.
Was that on North
Miami.
Yes.
In like 135th.
Where he lived with Jessica?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, go ahead.
And I was just waiting in the car, and all of a sudden Sigfredo just like popped up and got inside the passenger seat.
All right, so they got their money from you.
Yes, ma'am. Sigfredo did.
And Rivera got paid as well, didn't he?
I believe so, yes. Over it.
And was the money stapled?
Yes, ma'am, it was.
Can you explain how it was stapled, like what size bills and what increments were stapled together?
I believe it was stapled in, I never counted it, but it was like in a stack, and it was stapled in the corner.
All right, were they $100 bills or something else?
They were $100 bills, and there was some 20s and 50s.
Okay. And was the money damp?
Yes, ma'am, it was.
Explain what you mean to the jury.
A couple days after that, I went and I opened the bag and I called Sigfredo, and I told him, I was like, there's mold on this money. And he's like, well, blow dry it. And I was like, well, why would there be mold on the money? And he's just, I don't know, just blow dry it. So I believe his parents or his mom might have washed the money.
You mean like physically wash the money?
Yes, ma'am.
And why do you think his mom did it?
Because he was always adamant about telling me he didn't have any money in his house. And he told me that his parents had just stopped by right before I got there. So all of a sudden he had money to put in the trunk of my car.
Was the money, I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
I'm sorry.
Was the money already sorted out and packaged when you first saw it, or was he doing that?
No, it was already stacked and sorted out.
Okay. And did he have to, so he didn't have to go anywhere to get the money? He already had it when you arrived?
Yes, ma'am.
Almost immediately, the state talked to your lawyers and offered you full immunity, a get-out-of-jail-free card, right?
I don't know if that was immediately.
Pretty soon after you got arrested, you were offered to cooperate against Charlie Adelson and the other Adelsons, and you would get to go home to your kids, right?
Yes, sir.
And your lawyers told you about that offer.
Yes, sir, they did.
You also saw an interview on TV while you were in jail in which one of the prosecutors mentioned this immunity offer, right?
Yes, sir.
You have 2 kids who are your world, right?
Yes, sir.
If you took the state's deal, then you would have been let out of jail immediately, right? That's what your lawyers told you.
If I took their deal? Yes, sir.
But you didn't take the offer.
No, I didn't.
Instead, you stayed in jail for 3 years before your first trial, right?
Yes, sir.
You stayed in jail through COVID after your first trial hung.
Yes, sir.
You still didn't cooperate. The deal was still open, right?
Well, the deal was to give up Charlie.
And you couldn't do that.
Because in order to give up Charlie, I had to give up Sigfredo, the father of my children, so I couldn't do that.
So while you're in jail, sitting in jail, during COVID, you knew there was still a deal possibility open for you, right? You could still take a deal. Your lawyers told you that.
Before COVID, after my mistrial?
Yes.
I believe so.
And you still didn't take the deal, right?
No.
Didn't force you to take the deal, not take the deal, right?
No, I had no communication with Charlie.
He didn't pay for your attorneys.
He didn't pay for my attorneys, but there was word that my brother declined him paying for my attorneys.
Ma'am,
I had anything to do with him.
I know you have an agenda here, but just answer my questions.
Yes, sir.
Did Charlie Adelson pay for your attorneys?
No, sir, he did not.
Did anyone in the Adelson family pay for your attorneys?
No, sir.
Did anyone in the Adelson family pay any money to your kids?
No, sir.
You had nothing to do with Charlie Adelson, right? After the bump.
No, sir, I did not.
Charlie was making monthly payments to you.
What, the checks from the Adelson Institute?
Yes.
They were aware of that.
How about the cash he was giving you every month?
He wasn't giving me any cash every month.
Oh, really?
Yes.
He wasn't giving you $2,000 of cash every single month that you're heard on the wires trying to accept?
No, sir.
He was just giving you an Adelson Institute check?
Yes, sir. What would the $2,000 be for?
Before you gave you the Adelson Institute checks, you were getting $3,000 a month, right?
No, sir.
At the March 11th dinner that you had with Mr. Lacoste at Yardbird, Dan Markel's name wasn't mentioned?
No, sir.
Would it surprise you that Mr. Lacoste has testified to the opposite of that?
No, I haven't seen his testimony.
Also been reading concerns about witnesses giving false testimony. For example, you can see on the screen in a recent case in Texas, a witness admitted to giving false testimony, and the state knew of these problems and proceeded to trial anyway. In that case, 3 of the jurors who had later found out regretted their decision. Well, can you guess what happened after this trial? In 2023, Charlie Adelson was found guilty and sentenced to life in prison, and Donna Adelson booked a one-way ticket to Vietnam with her husband. There were jail calls of Donna Adelson after Charlie was found guilty, and in a hot mic, after she had thought the call with Charlie had ended, it kept recording, and she was heard saying something like, her daughter Wendy wouldn't answer her calls, and she just wants to find out if Vietnam has an extradition agreement. I did a video on that, which you can find in my true crime playlist. The state clearly believes that Donna Adelson and her husband, having only bought a one-way ticket, is consciousness of guilt, that she was fleeing to avoid getting arrested, yet there were no court orders preventing her from leaving the country. Her attorney said that if law enforcement wanted to talk to her, all they had to do was ask her to come in for questioning, but they never contacted her. Donna is heard saying, "Will they have time?" Could this be because her attorney would have said, if you are subpoenaed to talk to law enforcement and you don't show up, this could be a problem? So was the one-way ticket more of a convenience, i.e., if they had investments that they needed to cash in, because obviously they had been talking about appealing Charlie's decision. And maybe they didn't know how long that would take to do the business over there. Or if she was subpoenaed, then a one-way ticket was to ensure that they could book another ticket back quicker. She is also heard on the hot mic. Dan said, "You might make it in time," meaning that had she obviously conferred with her attorney beforehand, and they could have been talking about putting her affairs in order, meaning, cashing some of the money and doing whatever with that. Her solicitor gave an interview on Surviving the Survivor, if you want to check that out, and he said Donna Adelson, and her husband were not part of any conspiracy, and basically it will be impossible to get a fair trial because of all the negative media. What's your thoughts?